Morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, it's nice to be back.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. Yeah. Ooh, there we go. Okay, we got this figured out, right? Technology's good.
We're getting better and better. What are we chatting about today? What's up?
Well, I wanted to share when I was away on my trip. So I was gone for 4 weeks, and I wanted to challenge myself. So my girlfriend and we decided to brush our teeth with our opposite hands for
like you brushed each other's teeth?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
That would be really weird, but no, we didn't do that.
Okay.
We brushed our own teeth using our non-dominant hand.
Interesting.
Do you have a non-dominant hand?
I do. Yeah. But super cool that you bring that up. I mean, I remember years ago when I tore my bicep, and obviously had surgery, was in a sling, and had to do everything with my left hand. And then it became really apparent how the imbalances in the body. But this is something, since diving into the movement culture world and changing my philosophy and the way that I think about movement and the body, and changing the way that I what I call experience my physicality. These are things that I start to think about more and more, right? That the traditional fitness world doesn't think about, amongst the many other things that they ignore, right?
For sure.
But super interesting concept.
Yeah, so what made me, I guess, think of this was because, so my dominant hand is my right hand. And I notice, obviously, I'm stronger with my right hand, my right arm. So my right bicep is, more defined. My right shoulder is, like, I can stabilize that arm, that shoulder better. And I don't have that same control in my left arm and my left shoulder. Like, I notice when I'm doing like handstand practices, like my left shoulder kind of doesn't stabilize properly. So this is what I was just like, okay, I need to dissect this a little bit. So yeah, I started to really think about just motor control. So kind of thinking about the nerves, the connection from the brain to the muscle. And like, obviously if I'm using my right hand all the time, there's more like activation. There's those motor neurons, which are the nerves in the muscle, are more active. So I want to get that fired up with my left hand. So I'm like, I need to start using my left hand more.
Yeah, so there's a couple things to think about there. One is the imbalances between the sides of the body are the most dangerous. So less dangerous in terms of injury and resiliency is, for example, if you have a strong upper body compared to lower body, or strong lower body compared to upper body. I mean, not ideal, but probably less likely to cause you any issues, versus if you have imbalances between the two sides of the body. And I noticed this when I started jump training, and it's changed my approach to jump training and plyometric training. When you have to, the body is incredible. It's an incredibly intelligent, adaptive organism. And you start to ask yourself, will the body do things, for example, like limit your development on your dominant side because it doesn't want that differential between the two sides? And what happens, and that's been my experience, when I started training my left side specifically, I noticed that I was breaking plateaus on my right side as well, as they started to balance out. And we see things like, I can give you other examples between the sides of the body with ankle mobility, for example. Is your ankle mobility restricted because you have tight calves, or is it because you have a weak tibialis, or both? It's probably both. What about when people say, I have a bad back from sitting, I need to stretch my hip flexors. Well, are your hip flexors tight because they're weak? And could stretching in the traditional fashion, for example, the way it's taught in yoga, well, trying to piss off the yogis right now, all good. Love you guys too. You know, could that make the problem worse because you're not actually strengthening your hip flexors? And oftentimes, like, I mean, we could do this, we could go into multiple ways, but when you experience tightness in a joint, it's usually weakness in that joint, right? Yes. It's the body's way of protecting that joint. So, so anyways, all that we could talk about on another one as well, but balancing the sides of the body, I think, are critically important for, to your point, neuroplasticity. So the development of those neural pathways, and then for resiliency of the body, for injury prevention, right? And I can give you some examples, but what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's, I mean, why wouldn't you want to do it? I just think too, it's strengthening like your brain, like it's like a brain exercise as well, because so if you're right-handed, that means you're more like left brain dominant, you know, which obviously triggers certain things. So left brain dominant, like you're more analytical and methodical if you're into learning the science behind that. And then left hand are like ambidextrous, so like mixed dominant are more creative and artistic. But yeah, no, I think it's good to, you know, just to, create more neural pathways, like you said, neuroplasticity. So that's just strengthening the brain, building new connections, and it's ultimately going to translate to you being like sharper and smarter, right?
Yeah, so I think, you know, this is one of the things I joke about it in my classes, but because I think it's funny and I like to joke around a lot, but I tell people when we learn new movement patterns. So for example, I don't teach it in my classes, but when I'm training during my rest times, I will practice juggling, right? So didn't know how to juggle and started, you know, with taking one ball and throwing it back and forth, and then taking two balls, and you notice on the one side it's easy, but on my left side I was struggling with it, and now I'm up to, you know, a solid 30-second 4-ball juggle. And the reason I do it is because, number one, why not?
Yeah, we're gonna have to see that, by the way. You're gonna have to get them.
Do you want me to go get my juggling balls right now?
Okay. Don't throw us with a good time. Okay.
No, we got to charge admission for the lives if we're going to do that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
No, but when we teach in our movement classes, when we teach things like locomotion, which is similar to animal flow, but it's based in the practice of capoeira. It's a new movement pattern for people, and we'll teach them, for example, the like contralateral versus ipsilateral movement, right? So contralateral movement being opposite hand, opposite foot. So contra, opposite sides of the lateral, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Versus ipsilateral movement, which is same hand, same foot, so same side. So when we walk, for example, we walk in a contralateral movement pattern, and I say because if you were to walk in an ipsilateral movement pattern, you would look super weird, right? But that's the way, when we run in a contralateral pattern. And so we will vary the movements and challenge people's brains, and then you see them like hesitate and freeze as they're trying to figure it out. Yes. And then I tell them, oh, you're welcome for enhancing your physical fitness, but also for making you smarter, because when you train new movement patterns, you do enhance the gray matter. You can actually stimulate new neural connections and regrow myelin sheaths in the brain, and all of these incredible things that are super important. How
Yeah.
often do we think about our cognition as we age and the link between our physicality and cognitive abilities, and could that prevent neurodegenerative disease or decline as we
Yeah.
age?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're just not even scratching the surface
Mm-hmm.
when we think about things like gut health, brain health, and the connection between both of those and our physicality, our nutrition, our recovery, all of those things. We have to start thinking about these things. We have to.
Yeah, and it definitely interests me because Alzheimer's runs in my family. So, you know, that's kind of why I like to research these things and yeah, challenge myself and my more than just my body, but like thinking, yeah, about the brain and strengthening that as well.
Yeah, I think, I started thinking about these things. So I'll give you a quick example. As you shovel the snow on your driveway, do you always shovel with the same hand, same side, right?
No,
So do you always shovel from this side, or do you shovel equal amounts from this side and this side to
right.
or to prevent potentially imbalances, right? And
I'm not.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you're constantly shoveling on one side and developing that movement pattern, and then you're going to develop an imbalance, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I'll tell you right now, shoveling your driveway or your walkway or whatever it is can and generally is enough work to stimulate a new movement pattern, but also to stimulate the muscles enough to have adaptation occur.
Yeah, well, it is a workout in itself, shoveling snow. It's a workout, so why not balance both sides?
Absolutely, right? Would you go to the gym and just do shoulder presses on one side? No, but we don't think about these things as a potential benefit to us. Like when I look at shoveling the driveway, I'm like, hey, here's another opportunity to improve my physicality, and I like.
Oh, you get excited about it?
I gamify it.
You can shovel my driveway if you want.
Yeah, no, but
Okay. Thought I'd try.
now you have to. But listen, you're going to do the work anyways. Why not reframe it as a potential additional workout, an additional cardio, right?
Yeah.
And if you reframe it to think about another opportunity to develop your physicality, to express your physicality, why not?
Yeah.
Right? It's another opportunity, right?
I think this highlights the importance too of training single limb movements. You know, a lot of people do, a lot of people just do a squat. Let's break it down and do a shrimp squat.
There's no better way to expose your weaknesses in terms of strength, mobility, movement deficiencies, to break it down into unilateral movement. So single leg work, especially on the squat. Again, another lesson from my plyometric work is focusing on double leg work means that if you have a deficiency on one side versus the other, it will quickly be exposed through injury by doing explosive ballistic work. And I mean, ballistic work or explosive plyometric work, I think, is critically important for everyone to do to maintain a certain level of youthfulness and athleticism. Could you imagine if we started thinking about this differently and maintaining elasticity of tissues as we age, how much better our quality of life would be as we age?
Yeah.
Like, game changer. Game changer. If you're 70 years old and you can jump up onto something or jump down onto something with confidence, do you think things like falling and breaking your hip or struggling to get up and down out of a chair would even cross your mind.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
You know, I had one of my students say this to me. She went to go visit, I think it was her grandma in a retirement home. And she sent me a very emotional message and said, now I understand why we're really doing what we're doing.
Love it.
Right? And that's the stuff that means things when I get a message from someone that says, I was able to carry my groceries in from my car by myself all in one shot. I didn't have to call my neighbor to help me carry in the bags of water softener salt. I was able to carry them myself. I was out with my kids and I hopped a fence.
What were you guys doing?
Right? Yeah. And where were you? Why were you? Right? I need to hear more about this adventure. But these are the things that matter, right? Enhancing quality of life. And when you're able to do that for someone, that's a game changer. And when you can do it, and as a side effect of that, they look in the mirror and they go, damn, I look good. That's beautiful, I think. The problem with the fitness industry today, one of the most major ones, is they focus on the look. And the problem with the methodologies to achieve that is they generally end up costing you things that will impact your quality of life negatively, right?
Yeah.
I think of it like when someone says, my goal is to make $1 million. I'll tell you right now, even if you do hit that goal, it's a moment in time, it's fleeting, and it will leave you feeling empty. What if your goal was, rather than chase $1 million, was to change 10,000 people's lives by adding incredible value?
Right.
You don't think you'll still, if you change 10,000 people's lives, you don't think you'll come close to your financial goals, if not hit or exceed them. But imagine that feeling of laying down in bed every night and knowing that you've positively impacted people's lives in that way.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
If you think about your fitness in that way as well. So think about chasing the look, like the number in the bank account, versus actually training or expressing your physicality to have the best human experience possible in this meat vehicle that we've been gifted for such a short time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with that, but that's a good comparison.
That's the too, right? So if you're chasing a look, you're chasing a number in a bank account.
Right. Yes.
It's fleeting and meaningless, right? But if you're looking for the true human experience, and then changing your body composition is a side effect of doing that, because it's going to happen. It will. If you're training properly and focusing on your nutrition, that's going to be it. But that should be a side effect, not a goal. The way that you look should be a side effect of how well you move and how good you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
And part of that human experience is just becoming a better mover, being able to do things like you said, like simple things. Do you have the confidence to do things with both sides of your body? Or are you that person that can only reach up to the top shelf with your right side because your left shoulder is in pain? Or you can't sit for an extended period of time because anytime you sit, your legs go numb or you have lower back pain. Or you can't run and jump and play with your children or your grandchildren or your neighbor's kids or whatever it is because of your dog or your dog, right? You can't get down on the floor to snuggle with your dog because you're afraid or you struggle to get up. That should not be, or that's not living the human experience to its full potential.
Right. Yeah, I know. I hear so many people like living through pain and thinking that it's normal and like this is just the way it is. You know, their wrists hurt from they can't do pushing, like just things like that. Shoulders, elbows, like all joints are a big thing. Lower back pain is huge. But yeah, like we shouldn't have to live every day in pain. So there's definitely solutions to it, but I think it's breaking it down to those little components that yeah, you don't think about if you're thinking about just looking a certain way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think, you know, using and learning to use both sides of your body. First of all, there's something innately satisfying and human about that experience, because I think it goes back to like our tribal nature, right? Every time you learn a new skill, you become more valuable to your tribe. So there's just something within us, and even if it has nothing to do with your tribe, just learning and mastery of a new skill is very fulfilling, right? That pursuit of that journey is very gratifying, and it changes things, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
can you share your experience with the handstand, like your struggle and the triumphs as well?
Yes. Wait, did you say, do I share them?
Yeah, can you share it?
Oh,
Like, what's your experience been with handstand work so far?
it's been good. It's definitely challenging. Like I haven't been consistent enough, I guess, to see like very fast progress, but essentially it takes like a lot of upper body strength, stability. You know, it's can be tough on the wrist, but that's why you do your wrist warm up, your wrist mobility prep. Something that I struggle with, like I said, is just I feel that my left shoulder doesn't stabilize properly. So I'm always like kind of wiggling, trying to really push through the ground. But ultimately, like it's a lot of fun because I don't know, it's just a different type of movement. It's a different type of activity not everyone can do, and it's super challenging just to balance and use that upper body strength. And it's actually like a full body. You have to engage your core, you're squeezing your glutes, like you're squeezing every muscle in your body. So it's really cool. And yeah, I was just doing 3 sets of chest to walls. Yeah. So getting upside down, chest to the wall, holding it for 60 seconds if you can. That's the goal. And I was sweating after, but you know, I sweat all the time anyway.
You know, what's so beautiful about that, like the handstand is a skill, right? It's not a pure strength movement. Yes, you need a certain level of strength, but you know, if you rely too much on strength or you think about it as strength, it's actually could work against you in the handstand, right? Right. Because what you're really trying to find is balance. And I think, you know, for me, the experience of learning the handstand as an adult has been incredibly humbling, which I think is a beautiful thing. But one of the things is, you know, I did that post about being the mechanic versus the driver, this concept, right? And this is actually, I think I got this from one of my teachers, Ido, who, you know, if all you do is work out in the gym, then it's like you're forever the mechanic. Are you ever going to take your body out of the gym and test it in the real world, where there's, you know, not everything is this perfect rigid structure. There's angles and the ground is uneven. You know, have you ever tested your squat on uneven ground versus a firm, solid, perfect surface? That's not real life. But right. I think the handstand is a great example of being the driver, because you nailed it, right? You try to handstand for the first time, and that's when you your deficiencies really come to light, where you realize, oh, I didn't know how immobile and weak my wrists are, right? I didn't realize my lack of overhead mobility. I didn't realize this instability in the shoulder. So it gives you clues. And now you can go back into the shop, back into the gym, and start to say, okay, I need to work on shoulder mobility. So I'm going to work on scapular pull-ins, scapular push-ups. I'm going to work on windmills. I'm going to do these things. And then you leave the shop and you go for a test drive. You go back to the handstand and say, did I improve this a little bit? Okay, back to the shop, back to, right? So we see that in these real world activities, and I think it's beautiful. So, you know, I ask and challenge people, if you're, you know, if you're a gym goer, when was the last time you took your car out for a drive to see what you're truly capable of? Because if not, who cares, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy, that comparison.
Yeah.
It's a good one. But yeah.
I don't give a shit if you can bench 300 pounds. If you can't raise your arms over your head, what's the point? You know?
Well, you gotta look good. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, right? That's what the modern fitness industry promotes above all. And I want to clarify, and I know we're running up against the time limit here, but I do think that, listen, we are visual beings, so I'm not saying it's that looking good doesn't play a role in this, because we do have egos, and again, we are visual beings, and so that's not. I'm not saying, oh, it's okay. It's, you know, it's not okay to look good or anything like that. But I just ask and challenge people on what's your why? Why are you really doing this? Again, why are you chasing that look?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, we should do a whole, it's an interesting topic for me, right? Because again, I'll give the analogy of, why are you chasing that number in your bank account?
Right, yeah.
Right? What's that going to give you when you hit it? Right? Same thing. Why are you chasing that look? You know, what's your rationale? What's your why? Right?
Yeah.
Interesting exercise, at least.
I want everybody to think about that right now. And also, I'm going to challenge you to brush your teeth with your non-dominant hands. Just be careful you don't jab yourself in the back of the throat.
Oh, it's terrible.
But no, I don't know. I thought that was cool, just to strengthen that like motor control with my non-dominant hand, and then that will translate to firing up those motor neurons and getting things balanced out, on top of, you know, going into the shop and working on that shoulder stability and all that. So
yeah, and I'll challenge those people that are currently doing a fitness program. What are you doing during your rest sets, during your recovery in between sets? Dancing? Sure, maybe, yeah. You know, maybe we could do a live on that, right?
Dancing?
No.
Yeah, what do you do in between sets, for sure?
What do you do in between sets for recovery? And then we can kind of tack in what's the optimal time between sets based on your goals and why that's important. We can talk about that.
Should we do that next week? We
can do that next week. We could also talk about you know, training for aesthetics versus others, and do that one. And then
I want to talk about bare feet training too, as this kind of ties into that motor.
Yeah. Barefoot training, that's definitely important. And then there was one other. Oh, why don't we talk about how to correct imbalances between sides? Give people some real tips on how they can structure their training to correct imbalances.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then we should do that next week.
Yeah. Are you writing these down, or should I write these down?
I'll get my people to get you.
Do it. And then, correcting imbalances. And we could talk about too, injuries.
Yep.
We should do it, because I think that's I think all these ones are super important. For sure. I can't see if there's a chat or if anyone's watching. But
I can't see one either. What's happening?
Yeah. But here's what I'll say: if anyone does watch this, thank you. And also, if there is a specific topic that you want us to discuss, let us know. Drop it in the comments, and we want to make sure that this is of value to people too, right? So,
yeah, not just us talking to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see you later. No.
All right, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Bye.
Take care.